Hello, my dear friends. Operator.starsky here. It's a pleasure to see you guys. Today I'm with Anna from Ukraine and Sergej Sumlenny, my good friends. Please also let me know if you can hear us well, okay? There in the chat, it's very important. Okay, we have several updates today regarding the Sumy attack and the backfire it caused in Russia, because in response to the Sumy attack, Ukrainian forces conducted targeted drone strikes against Russian military units that were responsible for the Russian terrorist attack on civilians on the Palm Sunday in Sumy. On 15th of April, Ukrainian drones struck the base of Russia's 448th Missile Brigade in Kursk Oblast, which was implicated in the Sumy attack. And frankly speaking, you know, one of the biggest reasons I hate Russians for is because when I watched those pictures of Russian soldiers brought to hospital, I was happy, honestly, because, you know, after Russia crossed the red lines of not attacking Ukrainian civilians, literally, as a Ukrainian, I have right for this opinion. I will justify whatever happens to Russians. Whatever happens there is completely justified after their atrociousness. Subsequently, on 16th of April, Ukrainian drones targeted military infrastructure in Ivanovo Oblast that was associated with Russia's 112th Missile Brigade that was also linked to the Sumy attack. And Russia claimed that its air defenses intercepted 7 drones over the region. However, there were numerous explosions heard, and apparently Russians, as always, intercepted the drones using their own buildings and infrastructure, as it always happened. My dear friends, before we switch to you, I would also like to remind you that we are running a fundraiser for the legendary 4th Operative Brigade of the National Guard Rubizh, my brigade, and this is the brigade that fought in HOSTOMEL on the very first day of the Russian invasion, and later all over the front lines in the areas of Bakhmut and Rubizhne, Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, oh my god, Chasiv Yar, etc., etc. You can find all the necessary information below in the description. Please let me know if you need any additional information. So, my dear friends, how are you, Anna?
Thank you. Finally, the weather is getting warmer because it was literally very cold here in Ukraine and I caught a cold. But I like the way my voice changed during that period, so it did not interrupt me from recording. And I feel much better after this justice was served to the Russian missile brigade responsible for this double tap attack on Sumy, which is just another war crime. Of course, this will not return the innocent victims of this Palm Sunday attack. And just think about that. Maybe 15, 20 years, the attack like that would terrify all the world, would be all over the news. And right now, Trump, the leader of once the strongest democratic country, wants to describe it as a mistake. Here I think that Trump is a mistake, also a double tap, because the American people somehow elected him twice. And it's very important to take the initiative into our own drones. That is why I also encourage all people to support your initiative, the fundraiser, which is open right now, because drones are the best at delivering this justice directly to the war criminals. And I think that such attacks, they bring a lot of positive results. Number one, and the most important one, is the destruction of these missiles that potentially would also target other Ukrainian cities, maybe on Easter or other days when there are lots of people on the streets. And second, like neutralize the people responsible for that. And of course, somehow we undermine the importance of justice. Even I kept repeating on my channel that we need to defeat, demilitarize Russia, and I've decided to add this third very important element, that is to deliver the justice to all the war criminals, and that is not just Putin, because those people who were double tapping Sumy, they are not Putin. They clearly knew what they were doing. They had all the information and they chose to do it. And as you beautifully described, that you feel sorry for those who later get into hospitals, or where the majority of the Russian army to hell. You don't feel sorry for these people. I also keep reminding our viewers that they had a choice. The moment they crossed the border of a sovereign independent country as invaders, they made the choice. They can stay inside the Russian Federation, and trust me, there's lots of things to fight for there. They have this choice.
Yeah, absolutely. We all have choice whether to become criminals or not, and we have this absolutely beautiful saying that if you want something, you're looking for opportunity. If you don't want something, you're looking for justification, for a reason to justify why you didn't do it. Sergey, how are you? What's news?
Well, I'm also in Kiev, exactly as Anna, and it's an honor to be today on this live stream with you, two legendary YouTubers who have promoted Ukrainian truth for so long time and on a such successful way, because you're honest and you're well informed and you do what is right and what is good. And I'm absolutely privileged to be here together with you, legends. And it was absolutely devastating. I need to say, it is like we have seen a lot of crimes in this war. We have seen things after which I think each one of us would have said, and we said it to ourselves many times: nothing can shock us anymore. Nothing can make us more furious and more devastated. We have seen Bucha, we have seen Izium, we have seen Mariupol, we have seen murder of prisoners of war in Olenivka. We have seen Ukrainian prisoners of wars returning home looking like Auschwitz survivors. We have read Russian instructions, Russian documents instructing guards to torture prisoners of war and to find most successful ways to impose physical suffering on people. We have seen interviews of Russian commanders openly bragging on conducting medical experiments on prisoners of war until the prisoners of war died. And after all these things, you think nothing can shock you anymore. But still, we're human beings, and each time Russians demonstrate their nature and their, I would say, their pervert love for torturing people, for killing people, for imposing suffering on people, we say once again, how is it possible? And how can the world look at this and do nothing? And Sumy is a city which I personally am connected with. Sumy is, for those who haven't been to Sumy, and I think most of people who watch this channel, you have not been to Sumy. So look, Sumy is maybe one of the smallest Ukrainian capitals of a region. It's only, I would say, 350,000 inhabitants before the full-scale invasion, on a very distant east of Ukraine, pretty badly connected to other cities, only one train per day, and maybe two trains per day. You need to drive 5 hours to reach Sumy. And at the same time, Sumy is marvelous. I've been to Sumy for my first time in 2021. And I came there with my car, carrying a bicycle with me. I always carry a bicycle with me before the war, before the full-scale invasion. And I decided to spend there a holiday, weekend. and to cycle around. And I was absolutely fascinated by Sumy. First of all, despite the fact that it is only 40 kilometers to Russian border, every person I met in Sumy was Ukrainian speaking. And they were smiling. And that is not what you often meet in your life when all people smile. And the city was marvelous with a lot of ancient architecture. In the city center, there is so-called Altanka, a very nice wooden terrace, historical one, with carved wood, with a lot of love, preserved from the 19th century. And I came to Sumy for my first time. It was about like 10:30 p.m. on Saturday. And in the central park of Sumy, there were a lot of young people, like 18, 19, 20. And they were calmly walking around, some with skateboards, some with bicycles, and they were talking. And I told myself, Sergej, it's late evening in a park, in a city center, and you witness like 100 of young people, and no one is drunk, no one is shouting, no one is aggressive. Everyone is polite and everyone respects the other people. And then I cycled around and I saw all the heritage of this area. The area was extremely rich because of sugar production in later 19th century. And you cycle around and you see in each village you see a huge church built of bricks, all the houses built of bricks, and see there was a lot of wealth here. And the landscapes, low hills, a bit of forest, a bit of river, a bit of swamps. And then I realized when the Russians came to the stupid decision to attack the area, and they were smashed by Sumy territorial defense, it was absolutely not a surprise for me because I saw there is only one road to Russia and a lot of forest and swamps around. And I knew that there were a lot of hunters there. So the Sumy people have just like smashed the Russians, but that is like my personal connection to Sumy, and I have a lot of friends from there. My one of my employees was from Sumy region, and I love Sumy so much, and I was absolutely devastated when the Russians hit Sumy. It was like I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe because I know this area and I go to Sumy like every 2 months because there is a lot of fighting there, and our organization supports the 47th Mechanized Brigade there and other units, and I know Sumy, and it was absolutely devastating, hitting people on Palm Sunday, churchgoers, civilians, a lot of children, and then bragging that they have hit some secret NATO meeting. It's a perversion only Russian propaganda is capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. They do it all the time. They do it all the time to justify their atrociousness. And we can hear that a lot. Remember when they hit Kramatorsk, Frankie and Koen, our good friends from Netherlands, also were in that very pizzeria in Kramatorsk that very moment. They were lucky to survive, and we know exactly the number of victims. We know that half of those people that were killed there, they were actually employees of that place, and Russians were spreading the fakes that something like several hundred NATO mercenaries were killed there. And in Kryvyi Rih, they also said that those children that were murdered by Russian missiles, they were actually foreign mercenaries. But again, it's very, very typical. I'm not even surprised because it's very easy to recognize when Russians are lying. It's when their lips are moving. It's a known fact. Speaking of our allies from the other side of Atlantic, the United States, one of the craziest reactions that we heard from Trump when he was commenting this horrifying strike on Sumy, he said that it was a mistake. And later, when he was asked to explain what he meant, he started repeating like the same narratives that he says every single time when he doesn't know what to say. that this war should not have started, and if he was president, and blah blah blah. But this time he again called Ukraine an aggressor. He said, if you want to attack a country that is 20 times larger than you, and things like that. First of all, in terms of population, Russia is only 4 times larger than Ukraine. In terms of territory, it's not 20, it's 30. So basic things that unfortunately he doesn't know. But why does Trump repeatedly say that Ukraine was an aggressor? Anna, how do you think?
Thank you for this question. And here I 100% agree with what that he has mentioned before we started our live, is that I personally have stopped following, I mean, emotionally following, deeply following what Trump says. Because even if he says something positive towards Ukraine, towards the European Union, I know it's just for an hour or a day or 2 hours or 30 minutes or whatnot. He does not have a clear vision or a clear understanding of literally anything. And 100% that even his advisors don't know how he will react to a particular thing tomorrow. Look at his tariffs on, off, on, off. And oh my God, this does not describe him as a strong leader. He hopes it does, but in reality, maybe the first time he imposed that tariff, he looked like a crazy, decisive person. I'm not saying clever, but crazy, decisive. And after he applied this on, off, I'm sure that um, Chinese leaders and Russian dictators, they just kind of feel funny about that. One of the main things we have to accept about the White House administration, which I sure separate from the people of the United States who demonstrate their amazing support, and sometimes we actually feel sorry for them, even we are being bombed here in Ukraine. One thing that we have to accept about Trump is that he loves the mindset of Putin, that he wants to be Putin when he grows up. That's his vision of his future. That's the way he treats countries like Canada, like Mexico, like Denmark, with Greenland. He has chosen this approach. So, how can we expect that a person that wants to annex Greenland or to annex Canada and openly repeats that by different official speakers, how can we expect that such person will protect the territorial integrity of Ukraine? I think in his mind, there's just Putin, him, maybe Xi, and they can divide the world as they want. And according to this logic, when Trump says that Canada must join the United States, he believes that Ukraine must join the Russian Federation according to this logic, just because the Russian Federation wants it, and just because Trump wants Canada to be a part of the United States. These people, they don't have any morals, they don't have any background knowledge. They actually know very little about the state of Russia. Now, there is an official investigation of Reuters demonstrating that from 4 to 6 million shells were bought by Russia from North Korea. They paid North Korea $20 billion for that. Is that a sign of Russia's strength production of the? No, like the majority of shells they use on the front lines right now are of the North Korean production. That's definitely not the size, not demonstration of the strength of the country together with the thousands of North Korean soldiers on the front lines. But Trump lives in this old world where he believes what Putin says him, and simply these 2, 3 people want to divide the world according to their desires. So we cannot expect anything normal coming, even if he will praise, I don't know, Zelensky and the people of Ukraine during one day. We have to be 100% confident that tomorrow he will say something worse. Just because Trump does not share. I will avoid the word values. The modern administration doesn't like it, but He does not see the world the way we do, the way people in Germany do, in France. We may be different in the ways we react, but still, he wants to be Putin. So, of course, everything that Putin does is actually something that Trump wants to do in a year or in a month. And let's finally be realistic. When the president of a country says that he wants the territory of the other country, don't take it as a joke. Take it seriously. These people are responsible for what they say. If they keep repeating that, if they keep sending delegations to Greenland, if they keep this trade war against Canada and other Mexico and other former allies, that is a sign they are doing and thinking about something bad. So I think it's time to finally let Trump say whatever he wants. I think negotiations or this image of negotiations is okay to get more time for us and our European allies to rearm, to strengthen, but sooner or later, 1000%, Trump will abandon NATO, EU, these global democratic alliances. I only hope he will not fight against us.
Big time, agree with you. My biggest concern is that he might start to pressure other European countries that are still big time depending on the United States, just as well as we are, that he will start to pressure those countries to decrease the support for Ukraine, and this can absolutely happen. But Sergey, you as a political expert, can you tell us what could be the strategic or political motivation for Trump, behind blaming Ukraine for being invaded? What's the reason?
Well, thank you for praising me as a political expert. I always try to be one. Now I think that the most important skill people need to have now, and actually not only now, but like since several years, is an experience of growing up in a criminal environment full of thugs and criminals and gangs, etc. And it was pretty much easy for me all these years to predict Russia's behavior. Not only because I grew up in territory of Soviet Union, which later turned into Russia, and lived in Russia for a certain amount of years, but also because I grew up in the environment in the 90s, like later 80s, early 90s, when like you literally go to your school in winter or in autumn in your like in your jacket, having an armor like a metal bar in your sleeve. Because when you are like 12, 13, 14, in that environment, you can get encountered by some people who you do not negotiate with. You just need either hate them or run away or give them what they want to have from you. And that helped for me. That helped me a lot to tell what Putin and what Kremlin, what Russia will do, because that is what you know they do. And now I say it is scary that you need such sort of experience and of experience to analyze other people's behavior to get understanding of what Trump's doing. Because what Anna said recently is absolutely 100% true. When a president of a nuclear armed power, of a nuclear armed state, the strongest army in the world, one of the biggest economies in the world, says he wants to get a territory of another independent state, take this seriously. Take this seriously. When he says he would abandon Europe in a case when Putin attacks Europe, takes this seriously. It's exactly when it is not so hard. It was not so hard to analyze Russia's behavior. Like all these European talks of experts, of so-called self-proclaimed experts, who said, "Oh, Russia is afraid of NATO expansion and has interest, security interest there and there, economy interest, Gazprom, central bank interest rate, industry production index, that and that." Bullshit, utterly bullshit. You just had to read what Russians wrote in their books and articles in their internal market. You just go into a Russian bookstore and you see the whole wall of books dedicated to their wet dreams, how they nuke London, how they occupy Washington, D.C., how they smash Ukraine, how they punish that and that country, which they said is a traitor country. And for Russia, everyone who is not happy with Russian dominance is either a Nazi or a traitor or both. And it was enough just to read it and understand what Russia is really interested in: dominance through violence, revenge, or feeding their mixture of inferiority and superiority complex, and kill, kill, kill. Is Alexander Dugin, Putin's one of Putin's most favorite thinkers nowadays? He said it openly on his live TV interview: "Kill, kill, kill Ukrainians. That you need to do. Kill, kill, kill." And that's what Russians say is good. So now, when Donald Trump says he will do that and that, just trust him. Just trust him, as Anna said. And for me, it's pretty sad to witness that in Europe there were so many years of talk: what we should do, what we should not do, should we trust the United States, should we trust that and that, will Germany jump in when the Baltic states will be attacked, oh, we will not need to do it because these Americans will help us. Guys, these Americans have helped you once in 1940s when the US Army helped to liberate Europe and to keep the Soviets out of Frankfurt, Hamburg, Stuttgart, etc. The whole story of the U.S. involvement in the world affairs is actually not that brilliant. From the European perspective, it's great, and we owe the U.S. Americans a lot for having guaranteed our freedom and democracy. And South Koreans do the same, and Japanese do the same. But except of these three exceptions, there is nothing good in the success story of the US. Like this story of foreign involvements, of foreign activities, is actually a story of huge flops, of failures. Vietnam is a dictatorship now, and people who trusted the US there were betrayed. Afghanistan, the same. Iraq, the same. And I'm not a person who say, yeah, Americans have attacked Iraq without a reason. No, there was a reason, of course. And Saddam was a murderer. He killed like over 1 million people. He earned his death sentence. But what happened after that is a disaster. The whole South America, the attempt to fight communism and communist dictatorships there, turned this continent into the most anti-American continent ever. Like, you just don't describe it as a success. And even with Israel, one of US most valuable allies, just remember how treacherous and double-faced was the US politics towards Israel during the Yom Kippur War, when the US was ready to just sell out Israel, and we're okay with that, with Kissinger foreign policy. And as Israel managed to fight back and to win its freedom and peace, Kissinger said, "Oh, I didn't mean like that. I was always on your side." Of course you were. Of course you were, the moment when you lobbied for stopping any support for Israel. And that is what we see now. You just accept the fact we are entering the world where each country is responsible for their own security and safety. If you don't have enough weapons, if you don't have enough manpower, if you don't have enough will to fight, you are really in a huge danger, because I'm afraid that no alliances are active anymore, and especially no alliances with the United States.
Thank you so much. I completely agree with you. And I have a question for Anna. How might Trump's narratives about the Ukraine being an aggressor, about Ukraine being guilty for being invaded and things like that, how those narratives, in your personal opinion, can influence the US public opinion?
I want to be an optimist and to think that even a large percent of those people who voted for Trump feel kind of very, 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 very disappointed right now. I do think there is a core of his mega audience that cannot change their attitude no matter what. Because you clearly see, even if we don't talk about Ukraine directly, they didn't like war support, they didn't want war, and then they cheer for Greenland annexation, war with Canada. So these people, they don't have an opinion. They simply follow whatever Trump says. And I do believe there is a certain but small percent of people for whom Donald Trump is a cult. Then I think there is a large percent of those who voted Trump because of some different reasons and may feel seriously worried right now. I'm happy to read lots of comments on my channel where people say they are super disappointed. They didn't think it will turn out like that, not just about Ukraine support, but about some internal questions. And I hear from many people in the United States that protests are rising. The thing is that the television does not show that anymore, and that they try to describe it as something positive. So, one part of me believes that hard times for Trump are coming too. I'm sure soon the alliance with Musk will collapse, and maybe more and more people will understand that following Trump's strategy, they can end up in The Hague too. Hopefully, if not this desire for justice, this instinct of self preservation can work for, I don't know, people like Rubio or some others in this close environment of Trump. Of course, any sane person understands that Ukraine did not attack Russia, first of all, because that was a very vivid, literally online invasion. And we can see parts of the Ukrainian territory taken by Russia. We can see all that harm. Sergej started this conversation very strong when he enumerated a number of those things that you think that is the end, that is the biblical evil, nothing worse can happen. And then a list continues. People saw that. People saw this double tap attack on the Palm Sunday. And people who are Christians, they support Trump. And if we talk about Easter, if we talk about Palm Sunday, it's not about eggs or chocolate bunnies. It's about justice, it's about human life. And what you witness is a huge tragedy, is a serious terrorist act, and open, literally online, with all the recording available and all the attention already drawn to these like territories. So those who believe what Trump says either are dumb, very dumb, and I'm not sure they can help us anyway, or they choose to believe it. We have to accept that there is a percent of people who think they cannot do anything, and they pretend to hide from the reality, and they choose to believe, like they choose this opportunity, not believing deep in the side, but saying like, well, maybe not everything is that straightforward. And I think that for these people, we should focus on things that are closer for them. And for example, I think that was the strongest part of Zelensky's recent interview in that 60 minutes, that Russia is militarizing itself like crazy. They have 1.5 million army. That is way more than it was at the moment of the full-scale invasion. Ukrainian army is getting stronger, despite all the obstacles, despite we are a way smaller country and so on and so forth. But I'm sure you will agree that in general, when looking at the Ukrainian army, it is stronger than it was in 2004, in 2014. There are lots of developments. And a kind reminder, guys, about your fundraiser. I feel the most responsible here. Do support, because that's for Andrei's guys, right? If I'm not mistaken. And the skills, the expertise, this field experience, we get that. And lots of those trainers who come to Ukraine to train soldiers now come to learn from the soldiers. Of course, there are some basic standards they introduce them to, and that's great. But there, I think, maybe more that they actually take from our soldiers. But the very similar process, unfortunately, takes place on the Russian side. They also learn from what they are doing. They are also developing new drones, updating their missiles that are more difficult for the interception of Patriots and so on. And do we think they will forget about this experience, lose these opportunities when they witness that, you say people directly, I'm going to annex you, I'm going to attack you, and people are looking for the reasons not to believe you. So they have to understand that this very strong Russian army that can develop, if Russia is not defeated, Russia is not demilitarized, justice is not served. So in a couple of years, this will be a great problem. And thinking that the Atlantic Ocean can protect you from that is definitely a mistake, just because everything is so interconnected. Everything, starting from oil prices and finishing with the survival of the planet in general. So I think that literally every sane person understands Russia attacked Ukraine. Those who choose not to understand choose that. And our task is to find a different way to explain to them why it's much better to invest in Ukraine right now so that we defeat Russia here. We didn't want our country to turn in a battlefield. Nobody wanted. We don't have a choice, and we pay the highest price, our lives, our territories. Nobody wants that on their territories, but it will definitely come if Russia is not stopped, and not just stopped, but destroyed here.
I agree with you, and there are a lot of, ups and downs. Speaking of international support for Ukraine, but no matter what, there was only one force that would 100% always serve as a security guarantee for Ukraine, and that is Ukrainian Defenders, Ukrainian Armed Forces, Ukrainian National Guard. And speaking of those, I would like to remind you, my dear friends, that we are also running a fundraiser to save the lives of Ukrainian soldiers, and we're speaking about drones that, regardless of their purpose, they only serve one mission, is saving lives of Ukrainian civilians and soldiers. And you may find all the necessary information in the description to this video. It's all there. There is a PayPal link, and there is also a direct transfer link, direct transfer information. Please check it out. And also big thanks to everybody who already donated for my guys. We're speaking about the 4th Operative Brigade of the National Guard, Rubizh, the HOSTOMEL Brigade, where I served, oh my god, how many years? Since 2015 until 2023. Yeah, almost 8 years, which is a lot of time. I never worked anywhere for such a long time, actually. So speaking of people who changed their minds, Sergej, can you talk a bit about Pistorius? What the hell happened?
Yeah, I would gladly address it. And you have touched right now the topic of the new German government. And Germany turns with Donald Trump pulling out of this fight, pulling the US out of this fight. Germany turns into one of unwilling leaders of the coalition to support Ukraine. But before we do this, I want to thank you for your mentioning of our donation campaign. You can see behind me there is a flag of the 4th Rubizh Brigade, for which you have served for years and for which we are raising now donation for drones of the Rubizh Brigade. And on another side of me, there is a flag of the 505 Marine Battalion with the description European Resilience. That was a huge honor for our organization, European Resilience Initiative Center, which have raised over 50,000 euro for the 505 Marine Battalion. You have donated this money, and we have delivered drones and drones and drones to the 505 Marine Battalion. I personally brought them to the front line in 2 batches, and now we are delivering the same drones for the Rubizh Brigade. And that is why your donations are so important, because each donation saves lives. That is absolutely the crucial question for many people when they ask, why do I need to donate? Because the government sends the tax money. Yes, the government does it. But when the government sends money, the time between sending money and allocation is about 6 months. And they go in the very hard, complicated bureaucratic ways. And you don't want to know how much of this money lives in your own country at the bureaucrats, because they need to get salaries. They need to, it's absolutely legal, of course. They need to check everything. They need to prepare documentation, etc. But when you donate money to the campaigns like this one, all money goes directly into production of drones and of bringing of drones. And I also want to say we have raised only via PayPal. The link is in the commentary, not in the commentary, in the description of this video. We have raised by now over 24,000 euro, with the largest donation of, I tell it, 10,152 euro 64 cent. 10,000, more than 10,000 euro. And you can join this campaign and donate as much as you can. There is no such thing as a small donation. Each donation saves lives. Each donation is important, and this money will go into Rubizh Brigade, one of the most capable Ukrainian brigades. So sorry for this long advertising of this thing, but I really burned for this thing. And when you start talking with me about drones, you may be sure I will take all the time I have. But talking about Pistorius, you have mentioned Boris Pistorius, German Minister of Defense, who served more than 2 years, I think 3 years, I would say 3 years, under Olaf Scholz as defense minister. And he was a famous hawk in this government, and he was very good. And now he is transferred to the new, not yet confirmed government of Friedrich Merz, the most probable new chancellor of Germany. And now he turns to be a dove. Like he recently said, the same person who told all the time under Olaf Scholz that he wants to send Taurus to Ukraine now says that Taurus is not what Ukraine needs so much, and blames Germans of, I quote, having erotic feelings for weapons, which is absolutely like, what does he mean by that? Like having erotic feelings for weapons regarding Taurus? Sounds crazy. And I think that this sudden change is absolutely not a surprise. And let me explain my speculation. The new government is not yet set. That is what we need to understand. Germany is a country of very long ways. We have promised Ukraine 5,000 helmets, We have never delivered them. They're still in delivery. Okay, so we started our talk about new government like in November last year. Now we have middle April. We still do not have a new government. In France, they do it like that. Like Macron says, okay, people don't support my government, snap elections. In 1 week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, we have a new government. It's not like in Germany. We like processes. We enjoy process more than the result. So the government is not set yet. We will have voting on the chancellor, I hope before Easter, maybe shortly after Easter. And then the new government will be formed. And we will most probably have the coalition of Christian Democrats and Christian Social Union, the Conservatives, and the Social Democrats. That is what we have now because parties have more or less agreed on a thing called coalition treaty, which describes the new ways of ruling the country. But it is not set yet. And the positions in the government are still not set. We all know, because there are a lot of leaks, who is being meant for which position, but these positions are not set yet. And in the rumors, there is an idea that the foreign ministry goes to the conservatives, and the Ministry of Defense goes to Social Democrats. And Boris Pistorius remains on his position as the Minister of Defense. Now the trick comes, because in the whole social democratic elite, Boris Pistorius is the most hawkish person. And that is exactly what many social democrats are afraid of. They don't want him to be that hawkish. They don't want him to provoke Russia. So my personal idea is that Boris Pistorius is so much afraid of losing his position that he needs to calm down the critics in his own party and says, oh, I'm not that pro-Ukrainian. I'm not that anti-Russian. I actually understand your concerns. And I think that is the reason why he has suddenly turned 180 degrees against his previous attitude. And I think that is the reason why he is making the statement, which contradicts his whole position during the last 2 years, because he wants to get that position and he thinks that he needs to be more like calm down and says, okay, if the Chancellor Friedrich Merz is so much pro-Taurus, I don't need to be pro-Taurus anymore. I can demonstrate my own party that I am actually a very balanced person. I think that is the trick.
Being a professional politician is such a curse, I think. But we can see how it works with the American president, for example, because when he states one thing and changes his opinion the other day, that is completely crazy. And speaking of this, for example, recently the U.S. State Department's spokesperson, Tammy Bruce, made a statement. She said any discussions about sanctions relief would only follow a halt to Russian aggression. She said, citing the Palm Sunday attack. She said during this press briefing on 15th of April that after Russia's missile attack on Sumy on Palm Sunday, more questions should arise about who really wants peace and a ceasefire, which raises a lot of questions. We can see Trump and Witkoff specifically completely following Russian agenda and discussing, dividing Ukraine and things like that, which he can divide his ass as much as he wants, in my personal opinion, but not Ukraine. But this surprising rhetoric coming from the spokesperson of the United States Department, does this reflect a shift in the United States administration's stance towards Russia? Is it a strategic ambiguity or internal inconsistency? Anna, how do you think?
Thank you for stating this third option. I would not shape it better as internal inconsistency. I think it that way. And I think that this very short period of Trump's administration work has already demonstrated how negligent and unprofessional they are. Do you remember that Signal Gate? Actually, it does not. It is not worse to be coined as Signal Gate, but something that would lead to lots of people fired and forever gone from the big politics is now accepted as something like minor and totally okay. Unfortunately, I think that Trump's administration is not the one for highly qualified moral people to work in. And if some are left, they will leave soon this environment. And once again, as I have already stated, I don't think there is any way that Trump will abandon his mindset that he shares with Putin. So no matter what they say, it is just a smokescreen. But in reality, they are looking for the ways to help Russia out. For example, this recent idea that leaked into the news about frozen Russian assets being paid for new Boeings because Russian aviation is collapsing. And if we have this temporary ceasefire, Russia is allowed to get these Boeings for the money that are frozen in the United States. That is an open strategy that Trump wants. That is what he wants to do. All the rest is just a smokescreen. Some people around him genuinely believe they can change something and they are saying it sincerely. They will disappear soon. Others play by this manual of how you act when you are a Trump supporter. And I think that's the only thing. And I have a question to Sergej. Do you think if Pistorius has changed his opinion so quickly to adapt to the needs of his party and to be reelected, he can change back after he is elected?
Yeah, that is the magic trick with the politicians we know. Like, if you look at Trump's own vice president, he used to call Trump the new Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
Uh, that's what politicians do. They attack each other, then they love each other. But the thing they love most is the power. And I think that many of them do what they do not because of love for Ukraine, but because they want to survive politically. That is actually the problem with many security experts. And I need to say it, unfortunately, about many German security experts. Their sudden love for Ukraine and support for delivery of weapons for Ukraine has appeared very recently, like 2022, 23. If you look at their statements 2021, 2020, they promoted quite different narrative, especially those who got funded from the German Chancellor's office, back then, Angela Merkel. And that is a problem because you never can be sure, you can never be sure that their support for Ukraine is really genuine. But of course, you need to live with what you have, and you need to get the allies you can get. And as long as they do right thing, it is okay. Regarding Pistorius, I still think he's the best one because look, I'm afraid I'm going too deep into German boring political constellations and schemes, and please stop me if I'm going too far. But look, in German tradition, German political tradition, if you have a coalition, the there are like two positions, two ministers who deal mostly with foreign affairs. It is the foreign affairs minister and the defense minister. And in a tradition, the foreign affairs minister goes to the lesser coalition partner, and the defense minister goes to the larger coalition partner. But you never have both positions within one party. So from this point of view, the Christian Democrats on the Friedrich Merz should have got the defense minister and the Social Democrats a foreign minister. And that is not what happened. And I think it is the best thing which we could get. Because look, among the Social Democrats, you don't have any person, I say literally any person, who would be more or less tolerable as a foreign minister. Because every person within the Social Democratic Party who have higher ranks in the hierarchy of the party and their interest for foreign policy, they are pro-Russian. Mützenich, Stegner, I don't know, like Manuel Schwesig, my God, the person who lobbied for Nord Stream 2 all the years. Just imagine such of these persons would have got foreign ministry position. Disaster. At the same time, in the Christian Democratic Party, there were people both good for foreign and defense ministry, but they have got foreign ministry untypical for German tradition, and picked Pistorius, the only person, the whole Social Democratic Party, who was like pretty much pro-Ukrainian and critical to Russia, to the defense minister position. I think in the world which we have, it is the best situation. And I tell you, I would never have, it's my curse if you want, I will never have a government in Germany which will make me happy. Because like there are not my views are pretty untypical for Germans. Okay, and I'm naturalized German. It's fine for me to be a very small minority in Germany. It's okay. I will never have a government in Germany which I would say, oh, I love it. It cannot be better. But if Pistorius is a defense minister and Merz is a chancellor, I'm okay with that. I think there are 1,000. Do you remember the Marvel universe? I have seen 1,700,000 possible futures, and there is only one option when we win. This is this option. This is this option because with this defense minister and with this chancellor, we have a chance to win. But there are so many options where we lose. And I can tell you, there are a lot of very possible options with much worse outcomes.
Oh my God, I agree with you so much, that and I think that it can be applied to any country of the world, that there will never be the government that we can be satisfied with. Speaking of, I don't know, Ukraine, Germany, France, like anything, there will always be somebody. My God, remember, Zelensky was elected in Ukraine, right? 2019, elected by a majority of Ukrainians. Remember, Sivoha in his team.
Oh yeah, no, oh my God, I have
Sivoha.
forgotten, my brain erased.
When Ukrainians, remember the name Sivoha, that is literally like, oh my God. Then Arestovich.
And the minister for education, you remember him?
Oh my God. Then like Bizugla and everybody else.
I can tell
Yeah,
you,
that
I've
is the
read one.
pain only Ukrainians can understand. I'm afraid I'm not capable of feeling that pain for 100%. But yes, of course, you can always have a worse scenario. The question is how much you can mobilize the allies and how much of freedom of maneuver you have. And I think with this German government, we have pretty much freedom of maneuver. What I think is also important, with Trump's very clear anti-NATO and anti-European and pro-Russian stance, we have a much more motivation within the European elites to finally undertake real steps and to listen to those nations like the Baltic states who were ringing alarm all the time. And now you can see what is happening. Denmark is now sending their troops to Ukraine for training, not for training Ukrainians, but for being trained by Ukrainians. In Germany, we are talking about inviting Ukrainian experts to Germany to train German soldiers in the in usage of drones, and it is what I am urging for since months and months. See, we have a lot of Ukrainian experts in drone warfare. Just bring them to Germany and let them teach the Bundeswehr. And we have other similar steps. I think that this shock of being afraid, what should we do when Russia attacks Europe, attacks NATO in Europe, and the US will be inactive? This shock is so strong because the situation we used to live in for decades and decades, being protected by mighty US American shield, is gone. And it's gone forever. Even if another US president comes to power, I don't think the situation will change soon, because is this idea of being isolated of Europe is so strong in both camps, in the Republican and in Democratic camp. In Republican camp, it is just more bold and vulgar and immoral. But in the Democratic camp, it is hidden, it is camouflaged by all good words by Obama, by Biden, like finding a compromise, drawing red lines in Syria, but never respecting them, starting some sort of reset with Russia. It's actually the same. Like, you don't start a reset with a country which first annexed part of Georgia, then annexed part of Ukraine, and then you start a reset for what? What is your hope? Do you think that when you start reset with them, they will suddenly say, okay, now we give Crimea back to Ukraine? No, they will say, the West is weak. We have taken Crimea. They have offered us reset. Let's take some more lands.
You
And
get the
that was,
reset.
that was the Russians' way of thinking. So I think Europe should either wake up and arm itself to teeth and see Ukraine as an asset, not as a burden. That is, I think that is the most important part for many European politicians and for a lot of people in the European public. Ukraine is seen as a burden, as a cost. Like, you need to support Ukraine, you need to give Ukraine money for what? But Ukraine is an asset. Without Ukraine, you're lost. Without Ukraine, Russia will blackmail you. Russia will threat you. Ukraine has an army of 1 million persons, capable and motivated. Ukraine has experienced, the only democratic country in the world which has experienced the most modern way of warfare, drone warfare. Ukraine has beaten the largest continental army, armed with everything they have, with planes, with missile cruisers, with cruise missiles, with strategic bombers, etc. A ruthless army which used chemical warfare, which used terror bombing, which used carpet bombing, everything, and Ukraine has beaten them. If you think that Ukraine is a burden, okay, good luck with fighting Russia with Bundeswehr. I will not so much enjoy witnessing that. So Ukraine is an asset. Just include Ukraine into your defense strategy, into your security architecture, and you will be unbeatable. Give Ukraine to Russia, and you will see how in 5 or 10 years, Ukrainian youth, indoctrinated and brainwashed by Russian propaganda, will fight against you. And I don't think that your armies, our armies, will have a chance against that army, that combined army of Russia and brainwashed Ukraine.
I agree with you, and I want to remind our dear viewers, the reason why the Soviet Union was so much feared is because the core of this army consisted of Ukrainian people. Ukrainian people who participated in all sorts of Russia's nefarious activities, unfortunately, and Ukrainian soldiers were also involved because we were occupied. But Ukrainian soldiers were involved into things like Vietnam War. Ukrainian soldiers are known to shoot down quite a few American airplanes there back in those years. Then Prague and everything else. Ukrainian army was the core of the Soviet army, and the reason why Russians don't have balls today and they are being stopped in Ukraine, that is literally the reason, because they are fighting against the force that was the backbone of their army back in those years when Soviet Union existed. And Ukrainian army, oh my god, keeps being eliminated every single year in the Russian narratives by all sorts of experts, starting from Douglas McGregor and ending with, I don't know, Tucker Carlson, but they do it 3 years straight. And one of the biggest things that would surprise them today is that actually Ukrainian army is getting stronger. And my dear friends, if you want to help Ukrainian army to become even stronger, please check out the links in the description to this video, because we are fundraising for the drones for my brigade. It's 4th Operative Brigade of the National Guard Rubizh. Brigade of HOSTOMEL. And by the way, before I ask this question to Sergej, I want to ask another important question to Anna. Anna, how do you treat your cold?
I treat my cold, well, I do. I drink a lot of warm things and talk not that much, but I think I'm feeling better. But soon I will have to leave you because I have to do my channel work. But I think that it's super important that more and more people switch to this totally different vision of Ukraine. And honestly, I do have this feeling that the shift is happening after the United States openly abandoned former friends and started demonstrating this hostile attitude towards NATO, towards Canada, towards the European Union. I think that more and more people, when asking their question, what happens if Russia attacks the Baltics, if Russia attacks Romania, if Russia attacks Germany, what shall we do? Whom shall we turn for? And I think many have Ukraine on the mind. I do think they start to understand that it is either Russian experience or the Ukrainian experience. And I think it's much better to have us on the side of the good, to support us, not to let Russia destroy us, to invest in stronger Ukraine that will keep these borders, these civilizational borders stronger, and not to reboot these relationships between, the United States and Russia. I think once and forever, it's time to understand that no, Russia is not Europe. Russia is not Europe. Russia does not share any Western values. It's not the country you can live with. And one of the greatest geopolitical mistakes that Donald Trump does right now, together with his JD Vance and so on, when he believes that he can, for example, distract China from the support of Russia and, I don't know, break the alliance between, because, well, first of all, we can focus on the surface things, like both countries had communist past, both countries have very strong authoritarian roots that's typical for their cultures and so on. But I totally agree. Portnikov seems to say it all the time that Russia's and China's ideology is based on anti-Americanism. It's not about like friendship, so it's based on anti-Americanism. And by deleting the United States from Europe, from the world as a global power, this will be a very bad experience for the people of the United States, first of all.
Yeah, thank you so much. Please let us know if you have some more time to spend with us and our amazing community.
That question to Sergej or to me?
To you.
Well, if it's just a little bit, because I do have to work on my vlog too.
Okay, you know what? I think it's a good opportunity to say thank you big time. We won't keep you occupied with us anymore because you have your own channel. I feel like stealing time from your channel, to benefit our great cause.
No,
Thank you so.
that's the cause is the greatest of all possible, and I think that once he started reading the updates, it was so great. Maybe we should like remind people to support it again, and like drones are the best deliverers of the justice.
Yeah, I agree with you. Dear Anna, thank you so much. We'll see you very, very soon because tomorrow I really hope we will make some very, very interesting announcement together
Is it
with.
coming tomorrow?
I,
Let's
I
keep the
really,
intrigue.
yeah, I really hope so. Thank you so much. Be safe, treat your cold, and recover as soon as possible.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Take care, Anna. Thank you so much, and gute Besserung, as people say in Germany.
Danke sehr.
Fast recovery.
Genau. Danke sehr. So here, I love your photo with Pechorочка on the background.
Oh, thank you. It was Christmas. It was Christmas last year, Christmas 24, and
You wanted something
I brought
special.
German marzipan to Kursk region. Thank you.
Okay, go shopping to more Russian cities on the Ukrainian tanks.
No, I brought it there because they don't sell it in Suja. So I brought German marzipan to the soldiers of the Ukrainian army to celebrate Christmas 24. It was a very moving trip there.
Thank you. That's really moving. Thank you so much and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Be safe. Okay, Sergey, we have a question. Speaking of our fundraiser, can we see what kind of drones are we talking about? Can you talk a bit more about those, because you are the person who physically delivers the drones to the Ukrainian units?
Yeah, of course, of course. So first of all, we need to say that drones are absolutely crucial for the Ukrainians, for the Russians also, but that's another part of the story, said one. So I personally wish the Russians to have the worst drones one can build, and I have seen a lot of Russian drones. They are many of them of a shitty quality, but unfortunately they have a lot of them, and even if they have shitty drones, they have pretty much of them. They can use them, and of course they have also good drones, which makes so many problems. And I have in the units we support, we all the time have losses through the Russian drones, and that is absolutely devastating. That's very sad. So when we talk about our drones, which we support, which we send to the brigades, including the 4th Rubizh Brigade, that are the drones which these people want to have. And they are of two major types. They are off-the-shelf drones, this like DJI Mavic and Hotel, pretty expensive ones, which can be used for civilians of the area. They can be equipped with daylight cameras or with night life, or with night time cameras, night vision cameras, or FPV drones. FPV drones are those which can be guided by people using these goggles. So when the pilot wears these goggles, and the pilot sees literally what the drone sees. That's why the drone is called FPV, first person view drone. And we deliver the units with the drones they want to have. And now it comes to a very technical part, but which I personally love so much because I do the drones since like almost 3 years, and it is a fascinating area. I never thought I would ever do anything with that because I was educated as a journalist and as a political scientist and as a lawyer, and like none of these three destinations of your life ends with drones. My life ended with drones, not in a literal way, I hope. So what we do, the unit can use an FPV drone for whatever they want. They can equip it with the equipment they think is needed, and it can be everything. And the idea is that your drone flies where the Russians use their electronic warfare. And what is electronic warfare? A drone, when you fly a drone transmits a signal, video signal, what the drone sees. So the pilot sees what the drone sees. And the pilot transmits a signal for guiding the drone. So the drone knows what motor should be, should it run, where it flies, left or right, forward or backward, higher, lower, etc. So both communication goes through the radio signal, as long as it's not an optic fiber cable drone, where the communication goes through an optic fiber cable. So the I have I have the comment. You a drone nerd now, Sergey? Yes, I am. So the enemy wants to jam this signal. That means the enemy wants to emit a signal so strong on the same frequency that you either don't get the video signal from the drone, or the drone doesn't get a common signal from you. It's like when you want to talk on your phone with someone in a crowd, and there is a lot of noise and music, etc. You cannot hear a person say, "Yeah, I cannot hear you. Can you call me later or text me?" That is exactly what happens when the Russians jam the drone. So in this situation, the pilot loses the drone because no contact is possible anymore. And that's what you want to avoid. So for this case, the units, they tell us, look, guys, we know that Russians use on this area of front, they use jamming on that frequency. We want to have a drone on a different frequency. Or we want to have a drone which can swap between frequencies, have two frequencies, which it can automatically swap when signal goes down. And that is what we deliver them. And then the units can transport everything with the drones. For example, blood for a wounded person. When a person is somewhere like 5 kilometers from you and is wounded, and they can transport blood to them. Or you can transport medikit. Or you can bring water to a group of soldiers which are encircled, etc. Or you can use this drone as a transmitter drone. So you send this drone to the sky, and this drone just transmits signal to other drones. Or you can use a drone as a recon drone to find like enemy movement, or to find a minefield. Because if the drone is equipped with thermal camera, just imagine, in summer, sun is high, the landmines, these anti-tank mines, when they get laid on the ground, they get hot by sunlight. And when the sun sets down, the ground gets cold, but the mines remain hot. And you send a drone equipped with a thermal camera, and you see these mines glowing in the night like white dots, and you know where are minefields. You can find fires, you can find other things. So drones are actually everything in this war. And of course, the units can equip them with everything they need. It's in their responsibility, and we just deliver them drones which are the best, which are usable, which are resistant to Russian electronic warfare, and which I would not say never fail, but our technical failure rate is under 1%, and that's extremely good.
That is amazing. And again, another reminder that whatever drones Ukraine is buying for its soldiers are saving lives, even if their purpose is a bit different, but they're saving lives. There's several commentaries regarding my wardrobe, by the way. We have Zhilka saying that I should buy a bigger selection of clothes for my live streams, and Also, Kelahela says Starsky straight out of Ralph Lauren today. Guys, mark my words, if we gather, our mark is $100,000 for 1,000 drones, right?
Euro.
Yeah, so if we gather this amount of money by April 30th, the next stream I will do, literally wearing nothing at all. And I can do that. Or if you double that, I will be wearing something. So
Yeah, I need to say here, 1,000 drones is, to be realistic, okay? 1,000 drones is our strategic goal. It is what we want to achieve. We cannot buy 1,000 drones with €100,000, unfortunately. If it would have been possible, I would gladly do that, but it is impossible. So I say 1,000 drones is the strategic goal which we want to achieve. €100,000 is a realistic goal of raising donations. All money goes into drones, but unfortunately, €100,000 cannot buy 1,000 drones. That is understandable. But now we have like €24,535 raised via PayPal. We have several thousand euro on the bank account. I cannot say now more precise, but I think that we have like 5,000-6,000 euro on the bank account. So 30,000, that is what we have. And that is already a sum where we can store purchasing equipment and parts in a large scale. And like in any production, when you purchase spare parts in a bulk, like in large scale, they're getting cheaper. So the more you donate, the more drones buys €1 you have donated. That is understandable. And of course, we will, as soon as the first batch of drones will be delivered to Rubizh Brigade, I will deliver it personally, and you will have very nice videos with greetings to each donor. And Starsky, I hope we will have maybe some video with Maxim Proskurov, senior lieutenant from the 4th Brigade, who is actually a mastermind behind this campaign, who said we need these drones. And we will report on details about this drones delivery.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if this dynamic is preserved, because we had this absolutely amazing donation of €10,000 coming from Germany, by the way, as far as I know. If this dynamic is preserved, I think that I will have a naked stream for real next month. Yeah. And the reason I'm wearing these clothes, like civilian clothes, is literally because I'm a humble civilian body, humble civilian man with a perfect body underneath.
Yeah, but look, we have now a question from a person who is a longtime supporter of our European Resilience channel and a donor, Cyrilla von Sintra. And this person from Germany asks, kann man auf die Drohnen auch eine Nachricht schreiben lassen, which is translated into English, can you also have a message written on the drones? And I tell you yes. We can have it. And you can just like message donations at european-resilience.org or whatever. Like you can message me on Twitter, Sumlenny, and we can discuss this. And for sure, you can have your personal drone. Yes, you can have your personal drone. It is everything possible, and you can have it, of course.
Absolutely.
And of course, there will be, I hope there will be from the guys from the 4th Brigade, we will have also souvenirs like patches and other signs of gratitude for your donations, of course.
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea because there's a lot of things that our viewers want to say to the Russian terrorists, I believe, and it's not surprising. Returning to this topic about the statement made by the spokesperson of the US State Department. How do you think, how will Russian terrorists react to such statement? Will it force them to escalate or pause their strikes on civilians, or will it have any reaction whatsoever?
Well, that's a good question. I think that the Russians live, that is, as far as I understand their mentality, they live in a very interesting world. On one hand, they shape the world, they create the world, so to say, with their narratives, with their influence networks, and with their propaganda and corruption and bribes and blackmail, etc. And they're pretty much successful in this. On another hand, they start to believe from a certain point, they start to believe in their own lies. And that is absolutely scary to witness when you see that they start to believe in lies they have created by themselves. So when the US, and I think they think that they have totally captured the US, and that the US government, the Trump administration, is now their loyal servant. When they see that this administration has still a certain autonomy in the movements and they can strike back, I think it's shocking for them, and they try to understand what is going on here. And I don't know how they will react. I don't know. But I think that it scares them much. And I think if there will be more of these movements from the Trump side, and I hope there will be, because despite all the effective control, which Putin demonstrates towards Trump, Trump remains the president of the most powerful country in the world. And he can emancipate from Putin anytime if he wants. And I still hope that there will be a moment when Trump, a person with a huge ego, I think if Trump is superior to the world in any characteristics, his ego is that characteristic. He's the most egomaniac person in the world, and I can give him this title easily. So when he will see that Putin, or the Kremlin, we don't know if Putin is alive. Recently, there were reports that Kremlin uses deepfake, showing Putin in a video conference where we can clearly see the signs of digital manipulation of Putin's image. And if the Kremlin, if Russia tricks Trump or like makes fun of him, like promising him one thing and doing a different thing, the retaliation can happen. Just exactly as Anna said before, the price of this retaliation, of coming to this retaliation, will be too high.
I agree. I have a rather strange and probably a bit direct question. Do you think Trump roots for Russia?
You can see exactly what I see. You can see his absolutely weird statements. You can see his acts. He's blaming Ukraine for being aggressor, He's blaming Zelensky of having wanted this war. He tries to find cheap excuses for Russia's terrorist attacks. He tries to find some sort of easing in sanctions on Russia with these Boeing spare parts, etc. Okay, show me another explanation. I'm open. Like, just explain me what he wants to achieve. Does he want to reach some sort of negotiation leverage, demonstrating goodwill towards Russia? It's absolutely illogical. Anyone who observed Russia's behavior for 1 hour knows that you get the best leverage against Russia while demonstrating strength and decisiveness and readiness to hit. Like Erdogan knew it perfectly. 2015, Russian jets repeatedly crossed Turkish airspace, a very short appendix of Turkish territory, flying from Syrian airspace to Syrian airspace via this short appendix of Turkish territory. And Erdogan told them, don't do this again. The Russians said, who are you, Turkey? We don't care, and continued to fly. So next day, 2 Russian jets have been downed by Turkish air defense. Pilots have been killed. Russia said, oops, oh, maybe we should sanction Turkish tomatoes. Maybe we should not. So the Russians just accepted a loss of 2 aircrafts and death of several pilots and never raised this topic again and never crossed Turkish airspace again. Good lesson learned, okay? So now what we see in Europe, Russian missiles and Russian drones enter airspace of Poland, Lithuania, Romania, and no one cares. What Russians do? They send more drones, more missiles, because they know nothing will happen. Like when the United States acts accordingly towards Russia, when Russian jets demonstrate aggressive maneuvering around United States aircrafts or naval vessels, and Russian jets have not shot down, okay, crashed down, dumping fuel and like making all these maneuvers using the air pressure on United States drone over the Black Sea and destroyed practically this drone. Did the United States under Biden administration responded? No. How did Russians understand it? Go further, daddy, punish me. I like it. That is what the US policy towards Russians demonstrate. We are weak. Go punish us. We accept it in advance. And when the world would have reacted like Erdogan had, or like Ukrainians do now, you hit our territory, we hit back. You hit our energy infrastructure, we hit your energy infrastructure. The world would have been a much safer place because Russia would have known you behave badly, you get punished. That's very easy. That's like you act with a hooligan, with a bully. They don't understand our language.
What would you say to people who watching this right now and screaming, also you want to bring the world to the World War III by striking Ukraine, by striking Russia, by shooting down Russian aircraft?
I would say to these people, go read some books. Because first, what is World War III? Okay, does it mean that missiles hit NATO territory? They hit it already. Does it mean that Russia uses chemical warfare on NATO territory? They use it since years. Remember Skripal case, also involving murder of 2 UK citizens in the UK. Does it mean bombing NATO arsenals on the territory of NATO? They did it in Czechia. Does it mean sending assassins to Berlin? They did it. What do you want to have? The Russians destroy our infrastructure by destroying our cables. They buy our politicians. They kill our people on our own land. They clearly brag with on their own TV with nuking our land, with destroying our cities, with raping our people, with killing our people, etc. What do you want to achieve by demonstrating that you don't want this war? The Russians want this war. That's enough. It's only Tenga that needs 2 people. War needs 1. Okay? If I want to rob you, to beat you, to rape you, to torture you, I don't care if you want it or not. I care only about if I can do it or I cannot. And if you demonstrate towards myself that you're a peaceful, weak people, Okay, thank you for invitation. I know since this moment that it's safe for me to come to your home and to kill you. Okay, thank you. So we know that Russia always stopped when it was beaten or when it felt there is resistance. And every time when Russia saw that there is no resistance, it wanted more. And every time Russia tried to demonstrate to the world that this is the last demand, okay? So they said, we take only South Ossetia and that's enough. We take only Crimea and that's enough. We take only Donetsk and Luhansk partly and that's enough. Now they say they want to have only 5 regions of Ukraine and that will be enough. Okay, in 5 years, in 2 years, there will be the whole Ukraine. There will be maybe Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. What will stop them? Like logically, they have learned that they can just take what they want and then claim it's the last thing, and they will be like rewarded for that. The next time they will take more and more and more, and every time they say, if you resist, we have nukes, and you're afraid of nukes, so you just accept that. That's a very simple game. And once again, there is no case when Russia got punished in response and Russia really retaliated. Erdogan shot 2 Russian planes, no retaliation. Ukraine hit Moscow with drones, no retaliation. Ukraine hit oil refineries, no retaliation. Ukraine destroyed Russian cruise missile Moskva. Biden was shocked. They were furious. They said, what do these Ukrainians allow to do this? We're World War III. Nothing. Nothing. Ukraine bombed many times nuclear air bases of Russian strategic air force. Nothing happened. I tell you, you can literally carpet bomb Moscow and you will see next morning there will be nothing, just the opposite. Lavrov will crawl to the Washington DC and ask for peace, saying, okay, there was a misunderstanding, maybe we can discuss this. That is the psychology of a thug. Every time you want to be polite to a thug understands that they can take whatever they want. Every time you hit a thug, the thug thinks, okay, this is a strong person. Now we need to talk. And that's exactly what it is about.
I agree with you, and I want to again remind our viewers that Russia is basically the country that invented gopniks, and that is literally the gopnik mentality that if you show weakness, they will use it, they will exploit it, but if you punch back, they will never touch you again. Because one way or another, there was another very good commentary from a viewer that Russia weaponizes fear, trying to convince everybody that Russians will do anything to reach their goal. Absolutely. And the reality is that they will not. Why? Because they want to live like any other creature on this planet. Russians want to live. Putin wants to live. He wants to have a good life. He doesn't want Moscow to be destroyed in the nuclear fire. His oligarchs want to have good life. They also don't want to see their villas destroyed in the nuclear fire. That's why they will never commit nuclear apocalypse, because they want to live and they want to live good. They want to have a wealthy and good life. And the same with mentality of Putin, because Putin, again, Sergei, correct me if I'm wrong, but Putin comes from a KGB background that is tightly connected to the bandit culture, basically, because both cultures, the KGB and mafia, were intertwined, and there still are. And Putin and a lot of individuals in his team come from bandit and KGB background. What they did was basically killing families, drowning people, burying people in concrete and things like that. Those crazy 90s in Russia, in the post-Soviet space in general, people who remember those times, they will tell you for real that those things happened. It was like mafia wars, for example, in early 20th century in the United States, but much worse because it involved killing families, kidnapping kids, sending their parents their fingers and things like that. And Russians were known for being extremely atrocious. I'm talking about the Russian mafiosi. And that is literally the only language that Putin and his oligarchs understand. If you show them strength, if you punch back, that is the only language they understand. And the more atrocious you are yourself, the more they respect you. Look at how much they respect countries like North Korea, for example, or China, because they only understand the strength and might, because they believe that might makes right. Am I right, or am I making this up?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that I always love to quote Russia's poet Alexander Pushkin, who is for right being seen as Russia's most important poet from the early 19th century. And he has authored a very short verse which portrays a dialogue between gold and steel, which stay respectively for economy and military power. And this dialogue is very simple. Everything is mine, says the gold. Everything is mine, says the steel. I will buy everything, says the gold. I will take everything, says the steel. So the Russian way is clearly in line with the steel narrative. I will take everything. And just think in this constellation in this dialogue between gold and steel, the gold thinks it possesses something by the fact that it has bought something. But what is buying? Buying means that you respect a contract. You give something in exchange of something. It means that the other party should respect it. And if there is a conflict, who will decide it? You need to go to court. It means you need to accept some high authority. But the steel is very simple and brutal. It takes something. And then if you are not agree with that, okay, what should you do? What should you do if you're not agree with my power? You may whine as long as you want. I have it. And that is the Russian way. They never respect any treaty, any contract, because they believe pretty logically that when you bind yourself to contract obligations, you reduce the level of your autonomy, of your independency. You limit your field of activity, and a party which can break contract anytime without fearing any consequence is in true position of power. That's why the Russians sign any contract, because they don't respect it. They know that they will break it any time when they feel strong enough. And they do it. And then they say that is the sign of true autonomy, of true independency, of true power, of true life, when you're not binded by any contract, by any promise, by any rule, by any moral rule. You just do whatever you like, and that's your life. And that is the way of life which gets transmitted on every single level of the society. The parents beat their children because they can't do it. The elder children, when they grow up, they beat their elder parents because they can do it. the employer robs their employees or forces them to some unnatural behavior, like male employer can demand sexual services from female employees because they can do it. And if you're a boss and you have attractive female employers and you don't sexually assault them, you're stupid. You don't take advantage. You have. And the bosses in the army or somewhere else, they demand money from their subordinates. That is what we see all around the front line in Russian forces. The commanders demand from their soldiers payments, or if they don't get them, the soldiers get arrested, beaten, tortured, or sent without proper ammunition and weapons into so-called meat attacks, because the commander wants to have money and you're subordinate. You just must pay. And that is the whole pyramid of power which defines Russia. Russia is based on a very simple rule. If you can't take anything, you take it, and no one can question your authority. You enjoy violence, you live through violence, and you accept and respect only higher violence. That is the secret of Russian soul, and that is how Russia lives.
It's absolutely shocking, I believe, to hear to our viewers from the West, from civilized countries, civilized world, where nowadays when children fight in school, it has big consequence, and parents are called and everything else, and they try to solve the situation. While in Russia, if you don't commit violence in school, you suck, because everybody will treat you as a victim, and you will be beaten every single day. That is what Russian parents are telling their kids, and I'm not making this up. This is how they live. This is how they were raised, actually, and this is something that makes huge difference to me as a Ukrainian. Between Russians and Ukrainian, between Russian culture and Ukrainian culture. I saw those crazy 90s in Ukraine, and I saw Ukraine's transformation through early 2000s into an absolutely different country. We had a lot of that Soviet heritage with us, but the way we transformed, oh my God. Sergey, I grew up in a really, really freaking sketchy neighborhood in Kyiv. And what you're talking about, going to school with some kind of tool to protect yourself. I know what you're saying, because in my neighborhood I had a lot of gopniks and things like that, but today you go out and you don't see them at all. They disappeared around mid 2000s. I know that a bunch of them.
You know what has shocked me in Ukraine when I came here? When I came to Ukraine in 2015, and I lived here 2015 until 2021. Then I went back to Berlin, and I came back now to Kyiv, where I live again. And the most stunning thing for me was that people don't swear on the streets. They don't use like bad language. And the most troubling expression when you hear that from a stranger, you know you're really in trouble, because like that's a real sign of a conflict. When you hear the word "shanovny," which is literally a respectful person or honored person. When you hear this, hey, honored person, that's really like, I mean, okay, you are really now in a verbal fight. And if you think about it carefully, the Ukrainians, even when they go into a very clear conflict, verbal conflict with another person, they address the opponent as a honorable person. While when you go into a verbal fight in English speaking or German speaking, or I don't even mention Russian speaking area, the words will be quite different, quite different. And that is when I realized, okay, Ukraine is really a different country, a really different country.
I can confirm that. I'm not sure about the verbal fights in Russia, for example. I think you have much bigger experience than me. But in Ukraine, when I served in Ukrainian police in 2015, I literally, whenever we had a situation, I would literally always, and my guys as well, we would always call somebody shanovny, like respectable. Hey, respectable person, can you please, stop screaming, or stop cursing? We did it all the time. It was like the way to address people in case, there is some kind of situation. Shanonly, we used it all, like, oh my God, as much as I remember myself.
That is exactly what I mean. And when I realized, okay, they use shanovny as the top level of verbal aggression, which is literally a respectful person or honorable person, that is really something different.
Yeah, we have Brandon Mitchell in the chat, by the way. Hello, my brother. It's so cool to see you. Dear friends, please check out Brandon's latest video about drones because it's really, really important. He's helping our guys as well. I'm saying our guys, meaning Ukrainian Defenders, but today we also, and it's another reminder, we have a fundraiser for the 4th Operative Brigade of the National Guard, my brigade, the glorious Rubizh Brigade of HOSTOMEL. Please check out the link in the description to donate via PayPal. And also there is all information if you want to donate through direct transfer. It's also there. Thank you so much to everybody who donated, who participated in this fundraiser. Also, Brandon Mitchell, bro, I'm not sure if you watched this stream, but I promised that if by the end of this month we gather all the sum, next stream I will do naked, showing my heroic and perfect torso on public. And if you don't want to see this happening, you can double this sum, and it won't happen.
We all have time, like for Operator Starsky to let him go to gym to train or to get like a muscular body before we reach the goal, and the drones go for the 4th Brigade Rubizh of the National Guard, and Operator Starsky will fulfill his promise to do it. But I see here in the chat people from Australia have joined the chat. So it's morning in Australia already. Welcome, Australia. And don't forget to donate for Ukrainian drones for the 4th Rubizh Brigade. The link is in description. Also bank details. And I was really impressed when Australia, a country which is literally on another side of the globe, has donated so many great things for the Ukrainian army, the Bushmaster, armored infantry vehicles and other equipment, helicopters. And then I think it is really a global fight against the evil. And I know that while we in Germany or in Europe, well, we understand that if Ukraine fails, Russia will come to our homes and we will be unprotected. Then I think the Australians also understand when Russia gets rewarded for this aggression, other regimes will see it as an invitation. And China is the first one who learns from that and thinks, is it worth to attack Taiwan? Or maybe expand southwards to Oceania, to like all the countries in the south, and maybe increase pressure on Australia. So this war is not about Ukraine. This war is about the whole world security architecture. If it is okay to attack a neighbor, if it is rewarded to violate international law, if you can get away with genocide, like no genocide after World War II got unpunished. If Russia now breaks this rule, and get rewarded for genocide. We all know how many wannabe world dictators are there around. Iran, North Korea, China. Now I'm afraid to say Donald Trump. They all look at the situation and see if it is worth violating international law. And if Russia don't get punished and don't get pushed back, all of these dictators will just say, okay, it's our time now, and God help us.
I agree with you, and you mentioned Donald Trump again in the stream. I really wish, that one day we will have a stream or a video where he will not be mentioned anymore. But tell me if I'm paranoid, okay? Because I have
Look, I want to mention him. I want to mention him and praise him and say, thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you, Mr. President. You're the best one. You're much better than Joe Biden. You're much better than Barack Obama. You're exactly as good or maybe even better than Roosevelt and the others from the World War II, because you have ordered a missile strike on Russian military bases, and you have provided Ukraine with tomahawks, etc. And I will be the first one who will run around with the portrait, not with American flag, with a portrait of Donald Trump in a red baseball cap, make America great again, and post on my Twitter nonstop, thank you, Donald Trump, thank you, Donald Trump. Literally. We all know it is in power of the US president to stop this madness. Russia is weak. Russia can be defeated. And the US president can do this. The problem is this president, by now, is clearly delusional. He thinks he can change the course of world history by aligning with the evil regime, and he thinks he can get rewarded for that. He will not. Neither the United States. Because look, you don't have an economy which lives through global trade and trust in US dollar and trust in US papers, US state debt, and exporting cultural narratives when you suddenly cut the very fundament of your prosperity. Like, how can you fund your economy? You are in a permanent drug crisis. Your youth is on Chinese drugs. Your production is in China. Your Hollywood story about each second or third movie produced in the United States is about how the US saves the world freedom and kicks the asses of bad guys and dictators. All these movies are bad comedies now. When you turn on the Independence Day movie with the United States president holding a speech about freedom and humanity and crushing invaders, it looks like a bad comedy. Okay, it was very, very much, I would say, propaganda-like back then, but now it looks like a bad comedy.
Oh my God!
A lot of
That
people
president, that president from the movie is the one I would vote for, literally. Yeah,
absolutely, and it was created like that. It was created like that, and now, if you look any movie created by the Hollywood about fighting for freedom, about supporting peace, about good choice, about brave military, about brave politicians, about lawyers, etc., you say it's so fake. I don't believe it anymore.
yeah, that is so sad. Tell me if I'm paranoid, okay? Because I will share what I see. So, according to Bild, the US President Donald Trump has rejected a $50 billion deal with Ukraine, and refused to supply Kiev with weapons. The publication in Bild noted that Trump is more interested in negotiating with Russian dictator Putin than in making money from supplying weapons to Ukraine. And when I recall, for example, Tucker Carlson's visit to Moscow last year, when one of the messages that Putin tried to deliver through Tucker Carlson was stop supporting Ukraine with weaponry. And I'm sure that Trump is listening to Tucker Carlson. Do you really think that Trump didn't know that Tucker Carlson was in Moscow twice? I don't believe so, because Tucker Carlson was the one who invited Trump on his show as well, and I'm sure that they talked. If we connect the dots, how do you think the reason Trump is so reluctant towards giving Ukraine weapons to defend itself? Is it because there is a bigger reason behind it? Is it because it might be some kind of agreement between Putin and Trump? Because I don't really believe that this is Trump's own personal position. I believe that there might be something bigger behind it. What can you say?
Well, that's a tricky question because we are now on the terrain of
Conspiracies.
suspicion, not conspiracies, but presumption, and like how do you see that theories? We cannot prove anything, right? But the whole narrative Trump spread all the months was about profit. You pay me money, you get what you want. You give me something I want to have from you, I give you something you want to have from me. There is no security for free, there is no delivery for free, just pay money and get rewarded. Which is, I would say, not only cynical, but also short sighted, because some things cannot be just solved. Because if you don't go into this deal, even if you don't provide it for free, the result for everyone will be worse. Like, let me explain it. If Europe don't supply Ukraine with weapons, even for free, Ukraine fails, Russia gets so strong that it will dictate Europe whatever Russia wants. And the overall result will be much worse for Europe, compared even to providing Ukraine with billions of euro military support. Okay. But I still understand this Trump's attitude. If you want to get my military involvement, you need to pay for that. Okay, understandable. And now, Ukraine says we have $50 billion money. We want to buy your military systems. It's a clear win for United States companies. Jobs, taxes, everything. And Trump doesn't want to sell it. So what is behind that? It's exactly like this mineral deal. Like, Ukraine was ready to offer concessions for mining of rare metals, rare earth metals in Ukraine, for more delivery of weapons. And Trump said no, after all, or he said it not directly, but he offered such a weird deal that Ukraine could never accept. So practically he denied it. And now we need to ask ourselves, what is behind that? And I don't know. And it looks like Trump doesn't want Ukraine. He not doesn't want Ukraine to win. He wants Ukraine to lose. Like, Joe Biden didn't want Ukraine to win against Russia. He wanted to have a sort of stalemate. And Trump wants Russia to win and Ukraine to lose. I don't know why. Maybe because Putin promised him that United States will have a share in occupied Ukraine. I think that is what Putin offers to any country. He offers it to Chinese, he offers it to Iranians, to North Koreans, just support me and you get a share of Ukraine. And that's why Russia gets so many artillery shells from North Korea. But what we read in the latest report, Russia depends completely on North Korea artillery ammunition. And North Korea provides this ammunition not for free, for some sort of concessions and for exchange of military technologies, but also rights to occupy parts of Ukraine. And that is what Putin obviously can offer to Trump, because it is the cheapest way for him. It doesn't cost him anything. If he wins in Ukraine, I mean Putin, if he wins in Ukraine, Trump will get something. If Putin doesn't win in Ukraine, Trump will get nothing, but Putin will lose nothing. Okay? So I think that is the reason behind Trump's recent pretty weird decisions, because what Ukraine offered towards the United States was a clear deal in interest of the United States, and Trump has rejected it. The question is why.
I agree with you. Let's not talk why, let's talk what, because my goal is to see the objectives, right? And if we try to answer why, then it will involve all kinds of conspiracies about the PP tape and everything else. But what is Trump's goal right now is to make sure that Ukraine doesn't receive weapons. That is in my opinion. You mentioned the minerals deal. In the minerals deal, Ukraine needed either security guarantees or weapons. And also President Zelensky talked about his, I think, four steps, right? His plan, his victory plan, peace plan for Ukraine, where it was mentioned that there can be all kinds of deterrence systems and measures installed in Ukraine, deployed in Ukraine, in order to make sure that Russian invasion will not happen again if the ceasefire is reached. And Trump refused that addition of minerals deal because he doesn't want to arm Ukraine to defend itself. I'm not even mentioning the fact that he already tried to stop military supplies to Ukraine. And he refuses the deal that is clearly beneficial to the United States, trading, like literally a trade deal between Ukraine and United States. So the goal here is, I think, absolutely obvious that Trump wants to seize all kinds of weaponry delivery to Ukraine. That is absolutely obvious in my opinion. Why is a different question. What kind of reasons are behind that? Like whatever. We can see the goals, right? Same, for example, with Putin. We can clearly see the goals that he wants to achieve, and the reasons behind those goals are a different question. It's a secondary question. I remember when Putin, before invasion of Crimea, Putin was saying, and it was in numerous videos, it was on my channel as well, I published it several times, all the times when Putin was saying, whatever happens in Ukraine is Ukraine's internal business. We're not meddling with Ukraine's internal stuff. It's their stuff, their sovereign country, sovereign nation. Crimea is Ukrainian territory. Donbass is Ukrainian territory. Whatever happens there, we will not invade Ukraine. And then they take Crimea. And then a month before the full-scale invasion, he was saying the same. We're not going to invade Ukraine, and they invade Ukraine. Now they say that they are not going to fight against NATO. What kind of idiot even, like creating this stupid idea that, Russia is gonna fight against NATO, which makes me extremely freaking concerned right now. Because when Putin says something, you gotta literally turn it 180 degrees because they always lie. He always lies. And his goal in Ukraine is clearly visible. as well as the goal of Trump at this very point. He doesn't want Ukraine to receive weaponry from United States, and most possibly we will see also Trump trying to pressure the European countries in different ways, through manipulating tariffs, for example, or in some other way, in order to pressure those countries to stop supplying Ukraine with different defense packages. Do you think this scenery is possible? Do you think that Putin can use his influence on European countries to cut the defense aid to Ukraine? Or European countries are smarter than that because they also understand that if they stop supporting Ukraine, then they will be next?
Well, I think it is a complicated thing. First, we need to once again, it's a very illogical way of how Trump is acting. His statements that, for example, they will make United States weapons useless for the allies if the allies don't align with the US, has sent shares of all US weaponry producers just to the seller. Like Lockheed Martin, like everything, Raytheon just destroys the value. And in the contrary, shares of European weapon producers like Rheinmetall skyrocketed. So the person who promised to support United States economy destroyed value for billions and billions of dollars for the US American companies. And instead of supporting these companies, saying, we will send these weapons, they are the best in the world, they can protect Ukraine from illegal aggression, and this will increase the value of these companies. Instead of doing that, he said, we will install bugs in our weapons. And if you buy these weapons, you can never be sure if you will be able to use them. So what can you do worse to destroy attractivity of your weapons producers? Nothing. So from this perspective, it was clearly against American interest and in interest of Russia, if you want to say, because Russia's, and you told it, you said it many times during this broadcasting, Russia's main narrative was that they want to destroy US world dominance, US focused world security architecture. And they are doing this with the support of the US president himself. And then you have all the nominees of Donald Trump, and they look really weird. And the last thing is the Trump's pick for DC's U.S. Attorney, Ed Martin. And Ed Martin has appeared, I tell it, 150 times, 150 times on Russia's propaganda channel RT. And I tell you, you can appear maybe once on this channel by mistake. You may appear twice because you're looking for strange experiences. But if you appear 150 times, that means A, that they like you and what you say, and B, that you like them. And if this person gets nominated for the Trump's DC US attorney, that raises question about what is the political and moral stance of this person. And then you get the national security head, and then you get all other people who were aligned with Russian narratives and who praised Russia and who have no problems with aligning with Russia's propaganda. And then you say, okay, it can happen once and it happened twice, but when it happens in most of cases, there is something wrong with that. And it is either moral blindness or just a very simple explanation what Anna said before in the very beginning of this broadcasting, Donald Trump loves Vladimir Putin and the way how Vladimir Putin runs the things. He adores him. He wants to be like him. He's let me say, he's his example. He's his idol. He wants to be like Vladimir Putin, riding on a horse, topless, with all the people enjoying the great leader. And maybe we will see it.
Oh my God, flying
Do
with
you want to see
storks.
topless Donald Trump?
I admire this idea, of seeing topless Donald Trump. Literally, I cannot dream about anything else. Yeah, but dear friends, if you wanna see topless Starsky, please donate to the 4th Operative Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine, Rubizh. The link in the description. If you want to use PayPal or if you want to use the direct transfer, you can also find all the necessary information there. Please check it out. And if you don't want to see topless Starsky, please donate twice more. I promise I will not come to your nightmares naked if you do. My dear friends, I think we can call this a night, and we had an amazing conversation with Sergej. I always like speaking with Sergej because he has an extraordinary experience, first of all, living in Russia, and Sergej can either confirm or debunk my own biasness towards Russians because he lived there. He basically was born there. And also Sergej does a lot in terms of helping Ukrainian defenders, bringing drones, bringing other supplies. And it's absolutely amazing. I believe that, if we had chance to talk to Russian people living in Europe, they would find you as their role model because people living in Russia, here, for example, in Germany, I met quite a few Russians that surprisingly were so much supporting Ukraine. And literally, the other day I went to the gas station and I talked to the lady there. She asked me which language do I speak because my Deutsch ist sehr schlecht, sehr schlecht, and I said like Polish, Ukrainian, English, Russian, whatever. She's like, "Oh, я говорю по-русски," and we started talking and she said, oh my God, I remember when Ukrainian refugees came here and they had like the refugee camp like just across the road and they were coming here. Every single time I talked to them, I felt like crying. I just could not stop crying. And she started crying like in front of my eyes. She's like, this is so crazy. And she herself, she comes from Belgorod Oblast. Basically, it's like a territory that is populated by all kinds of Ukrainians since like centuries ago. And she was so much, into this, and she literally couldn't talk even properly because she felt like crying. And I met several Russians like that during some of the rallies here. I met several Russians holding Ukrainian flags, supporting Ukraine. And this is in my opinion, a proper way to behave actually, because supporting Ukraine is something that all conscious and decent people do whenever they meet Ukrainian people, whenever they participate in rallies, every single day. Even there's like this mixed market store that positioned itself like mostly Russian store, grocery store, or like Eastern European, but now when you go to the mixed market, it's literally blue and yellow. It has all kinds of blue and yellow graphics, which is amazing, which is, I believe, is a proper thing. So I think, we can call this a night. And is there anything you would like to say to our viewers before we finish?
Yeah, I think that that is, you have touched a very important thing, like what is being Russian and what is Russia. And that is what I say all the time. And as a person who was born on the territory of Russia and who grew up being indoctrinated into Russian imperialistic ideology, I think I have like some right to speculate about that. And I think that Russian way of view of how they judge the world, how they see the world, how they see themselves in the world, is an imperialistic way. And Russia is not a country like many countries like Germany or Poland or Czechia or Ukraine or others. Russia was created as an empire. And that is just like our like it just like camouflage the things that is not called as Russian Empire, but it is an empire. And inside of this empire there are a lot of nations who, some of them get colonized or got colonized, some of them are colonizers, but it is an empire. And if you say Russia, it is not a national state, it is a concept of an empire. And if people have loyalty to this imperialistic concept, they they cannot be, I would say, they cannot be convinced that it is bad to attack neighbors or absorb them or colonize them, because that is exactly what Russia stands for: constant expansion and colonization. And that is what we see in the interviews of Russian people in the streets. That is what I recently saw in a video interview of a Ukrainian person who was imprisoned for delivering sensitive data to Russians. And he's a 60 years old Ukrainian male who, of course, doesn't identify himself as Ukrainian. He gave this interview in Russian, and he said he's a Soviet person. He was born in the Soviet Union. He lived in the Soviet Union. He wants Soviet Union to be recreated. And he literally says, uh, the only reason for a country to exist is to expand. If a country doesn't expand, it dies. What a weird concept. Just imagine we would have lived in Europe where every country like Austria, Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Denmark, Poland, Switzerland, Sweden just want to expand on the cost of the neighbors. That is how we lived for centuries, and now, thanks God, we do not. But in their mind, it is the only goal. If you don't expand, you die. So you better expand. You digest weaker neighbors, you subvert them, you occupy them, etc. And I think that is the very crucial moment. Russian concept is imperialistic concept. As long as you identify with the needs of the empire, you are Russian. But you can stop being Russian by by denying this concept, abandoning it, and then you turn to a person. You can be a Bashkir, a Tatar, I don't know, like any nation which was absorbed by Russia, and then you're fine. And I think that is the only way for Russia to get out of this circle of constant permanent wars. And I don't think they enjoy it. Okay, they enjoy it because they don't know anything better, but I don't think they will not enjoy the other way, where they suddenly find themselves in a situation where they don't need to fight a war, where they don't need to die, where they don't need to spend their life in this violent circle of being punished and tortured by their bosses, by their neighbors, by their supervisors. And the only way for them to get some sort of reward is to go to war and kill other people. So I think that the crash, the disruption of Russia is an interest of everyone, including people who now identify themselves as Russians.
I agree on that. Dear Sergej, thank you so much for this stream. Always a pleasure to have you here. Dear friends, thank you so much for participating as well. Thank you so much for your amazing questions in the chat. And also big thanks to all our moderators, Ali, Newman, Katie, you're doing fantastic job by protecting this chat from Russian bots, and not only Russian bots. And big thanks to everyone who supports Ukraine, because this is the proper thing to do. One more time, there are some links in the description if you want to support my brigade. It's 4th Operative Brigade of the National Guard, Rubizh, the brigade of HOSTOMEL. Those guys need our support as well, because who knows what happens to the supplies of shells in the near future. We have to rely on other things. And drones are saving lives, my friends. Drones are saving lives. So, big thanks to you. We'll see you later. And as always, be safe.
Thank you so much, and stand with Ukraine.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!